taking a look at just some of the video coming in out of New Jersey. That is Mendham Township. And again, we have seen all of these videos floating around on social media, not just in New Jersey, but other surrounding states. There have also been reports coming in from places like California and Texas. And I can tell you, I get a lot of emails every day that come from other states as well. I want to discuss all of this here, so let's bring in Glenn Ignazio, national security expert and retired special operations commander. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us and help kind of break it all down.
Hey, no problem, man. Great to see you, Josh. Absolutely.
Great to see you. And first off, I want to ask, because I know that you have seen all of these videos floating around as well, not just the one that we just showed in New Jersey, but I mean, they're in several states. So what do you make of all that as a national security expert when you see all of that?
Yeah, I'll take the whole thing in consideration about from the first reports to even present day. So over the last few days, a lot of people are looking into the skies that they would not normally do. They're actually looking for drones or looking for things. So they're observing things that they normally wouldn't do. It's just a psychological thing. But the hard part about this is that if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, an airplane far away actually looks like it's hovering. And a lot of times I've seen pictures and reports, and they actually are an iPhone picture of an airliner way up at altitude, but it looks like a small drone hovering somewhere. So there's a lot of fervor and a lot of excitement going on about it. And the more that people look, the more observations. So it looks like there's a massive increase of these drones observations. And that seems to be what's starting right off the case here.
And I do have to ask, so do you believe that maybe they're not all drones that people are seeing? They are commercial airliners. There are other maybe drones that are flying following the laws. Are there just a lot of maybe miscommunications that are going on?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of miscommunications, misperception. But let's take a look at it. Reality is, again, you look up there if you're not normally looking at that because you've been watching the news, watching all these things, getting concerned. You look up at the sky and you're looking for things you don't normally see. Again, an airliner far away, which is a big jet, looks like a small drone, again, hovering. So the more that people start looking, the more that they're going to see, right? They're going to want to see this. So it's not to insult anybody. It's just that's the nature of it. And the other thing is there are a lot of drones that are out there being utilized. There's recreational drones and so forth that people do and utilize all the time. But here's the biggest concern. Okay, now this is the reality of it, is if these drones that are being observed, and some of them have been, are over military bases or sensitive areas or restricted areas, like today's the Army Navy Air Force football game. If those are over those particular areas, that's the restricted area. At that point, that's when you get concerned because you're concerned about somebody doing some kind of malicious intent or surveillance of a military base or so forth. Those are the things that are more concerning, but I think it's happening less. And I think these are just drones or airplanes that people are observing in the majority of the cases.
It sounds like I already know this answer, but are you surprised by the national attention that all of this is getting? A lot of focus is on these drones, and you're starting to get reports that aren't just coming out of New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, but we've seen them coming in out of California and Texas, just to name a few. So are you surprised by that nationwide attention?
I'm surprised in, well, sort of two ways. One is I'm surprised about how much attention it's got on the media circuit, where congressmen, senators, and so much are putting attention to this, and I think that's what's really gotten this broad audience across the United States. However, the increase I'm not concerned about because, again, a lot of times people are looking up into the skies now that wouldn't normally see it, and so as soon as they see it, they report it. It looks like there's this massive increase. It's not a massive increase. It's just a massive observation change that people don't normally have. But like I said, those drones, if they are in those sensitive areas or around airports, because they could be a conflict with airlines and so forth, those are the dangerous ones. Those are the ones that you want to take in consideration and get out of the way or electronically taken down. Some people are talking about shooting it down. That's not the smart thing to do. But the military and a lot of other facilities have the ability to electronically bring these down safely where it's not going to hurt people as well.
Going back to something that you just said here, President-elect Donald Trump posted on Truth Social yesterday and essentially said at the end of his post, shoot them down if we can't figure out what they are. So is shooting them down, and again, you just touched on this, is that even a real possibility?
Oh, let's look at it in a real perspective. Again, this might be a teenager out there flying a drone around and then you blow it up or shoot it down. Guess what? You're going to find out who it is because they're going to be complaining that you just took out their $500 to $800 drone. The other thing is that it's dangerous if you do that because people are going to take it upon themselves and the possibility of those drones or whatever falling on top of people. The other thing is if you take and shoot at something that you think is a drone is actually an airplane, a small single engine airplane, you could possibly be killing somebody. So that's not really the good call. However, let's take a look at the military, homeland security and stuff. If these drones, some of these drones are over a sensitive area, like a military installation that's or an intelligence area, they could bring those down electronically. Again, you can control their descent, or they would be able to take action appropriately that they know how to do. However, if it's in an airline, if it's around aircraft or airports, most of the time they're moving airlines around these drones. But the idea of taking it upon yourself or the military shooting these drones down, not really the smart call unless it is actually doing something intentionally malicious or harmful to anyone. So if it's intended to harm, maim, or kill somebody, I think you'd see some kind of action like that, but not right now.
What do you make of, let's say, the U.S. government? We've heard from the Pentagon. They have said that there is no threat to the public. They were very quick to say that, but then on the other hand said they don't necessarily know what these are to begin with. So what do you make of that? Again, you just kind of touched on it, but I want to go a little bit deeper into those comments made by the U.S. government as the investigation is, at this point, still underway to figure out what they are.
Yeah, well, it's sort of an issue. If you don't know what they are, you can't really say if they're good or bad, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of emotions starting to climb about this with these concerns and the unknown. So a majority of it, if you look at it, because of the volume that are out there, a majority of these drones are probably not harmful. They're not doing anything unnecessary. There could be people just being stupid, or there could be things where people are just flying around in the wrong areas. However, now let's take a look at this. And this is the biggest concern is say one person somewhere in the United States in the matter of all this excitement is malicious, decides to do something stupid or attack somebody or who knows what they come up with, but actually harm somebody. What bothers me is that the knee-jerk response would think that all these drones that everybody's been observing have been malicious or have some kind of negative intent. And the knee-jerk reaction and the controls that would happen with all the UAVs in the United States that are good for agriculture, recreation, would automatically be restricted. That's the biggest concern because right now, again, I think it's more recreationary. I think it's people just doing stupid things. But if something was to happen, it would change everything in the country.
Do you think a lot of this is maybe copycat people who are hearing about it and just want to be involved?
Yeah, unfortunately, I really believe that's the case as well. Like I said, hey, the military, Homeland Security, intelligence, they use these drones as well, these small ones, bigger ones, and so forth. And maybe they're observing something, and that would be kept quiet, sure. But the idea that they have their lights on sort of immediately tells you that this is not some kind of covert malicious action. You got to think about that. But again, the time of what are these drones doing? Are people using them in general service? I mean, to me, it's one of those things I believe that people just need to sort of calm a little bit, not be looking for something. And again, as you mentioned, copycat, I think there are some people looking for attention by flying drones and having people find them. They think that's a kick. So it's going to happen. And I'm sure that's happened in many cases as well.
My last question here before I let you go, and again, you just touched on this, but what do you say to those people who maybe are alarmed, concerned, and they hear about this? We've talked to so many of those residents who say, they are scared, they don't know what this is, they can't sleep at night, and then you have other people who say they're not scared, they just want to know what these are.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what's that phrase? Nothing to fear but fear itself. I mean, a lot of times people are creating a lot of this fear because it is unknown. Look, if these drones have been around for a while, you see them from, the Grand Canyons and areas like that to you see them in agriculture and military use as well. So the biggest thing I would say is calm. If you're looking for something, observe something. If you think it's doing something dangerous, where it's diving at people or anything like that, a malicious, sure, report it. But at the same time, this could be creating something of a problem that's really not a problem. So that's the biggest thing is if they're flying around without their lights on, if they're doing malicious things like chasing things or crashing into things or near an airport, those are the things to be concerned about and report. But in general, we do need to get some answers to calm this down. And that's what the government, local officials should be doing. These are drones that don't fly that long. The idea of being able to track them and trace them to whoever's flying them is probable, but there's a lot of them. So I think people just need to sort of calm down, but be aware. And that's what we should probably do to close this off.
There you go. Glenn Ignacio, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us here and break it all down. Anything else you want to add before I let you go?
No, I think we touched on all of it, Josh. Again, I think there's a lot of energy about this. I do get concern and fear, but like I said, I wouldn't say wait, but if you see it doing something negative, malicious, report it. But other than that, it may be just something cool to look at. So think about that as well. And hopefully this calms down.
For sure. Glenn, thank you so much for being here with us, as always.
Absolutely, Josh. Take care of yourself.
You too.